Hey there, my fellow mindfulness seekers. Welcome back to the Magic Mindfulness Podcast. I am your host, Rachel Hupp, and I'm so excited to be celebrating the summer solstice with you today. Can you believe that it's been a whole season since we launched this podcast on the very first day of spring? What they say is true, right? Time really does fly when you're having fun and growing alongside an amazing community. Now, today's episode is a very special one to me. It's very close to my heart because I'm going to be sharing my own reflections on this incredible podcasting journey so far. Now, as a yoga coach, I have always been passionate about helping women in midlife trust themselves and walk the path of their inner calling. Launching this podcast has been a natural extension of that mission, and I am so grateful for all the lessons, challenges, and joys that it has brought into my life. Now, let me tell you, getting this podcast off the ground was not a smooth ride. My goal in 2023, I had big plans to launch a podcast, but I kept getting caught up in my own head. I kept getting stuck. Analysis paralysis, perfectionism, the technical side of podcasting all felt so overwhelming. I couldn't decide on a name. I couldn't decide on a topic. I'm multi-passionate. I didn't know how to narrow it down. I kept thinking, well, what if I start on one path and then I change my mind and I want to change gears down the road? Are people going to think that I'm flaky? And so it just all felt really overwhelming. And so life kind of had a way of slowing me down. I actually landed in a new role, a new position in my day job. And so I naturally needed to spend my time, my energy, focus my energy on learning this new role. So I put the podcast on the back burner for a little while. And I knew in the back of my mind, I knew in my heart that it was something that I was going to bring to life when the time was right. So, there were moments when I even doubted if this would happen. But as 2024 approached, I started revisiting this dream of launching my own podcast. It was something I've been wanting to do for years. I recognized that I was getting in my own way. And as the universe would have it, as I started trusting myself, as I started saying, no, I have a message to share. I can help women on this path. I know people who can help women on this path, and I can bring together this community. And so as I put that intention into motion, I started looking up how to launch a podcast again, which I had done quite a bit of research on before. I got stuck in that analysis paralysis, the perfectionism, like I said. But as luck would have it, I discovered Annalena Fook's Easy Podcast Launch course. And it was just like divine timing, right? It led me through this fog. I love Annalena. I have worked with her one-on-one. I've worked with her in her membership program. I've worked with her in several group coaching programs, and I just really align with and connect with the way that she teaches. So I knew that she had a really unique approach to this, which combines human design, gene keys, along with practical strategies that make taking action feel easy. And so her Easy Podcast Launch program gave me the tools and the confidence that I needed to finally take the leap. And so I remember when we started this Easy Podcast Launch, right out of the gate, before we even knew what our podcast was going to be about, we started filming, we started recording ourselves. We never had to publish anything. We never had to share anything publicly, but it helped us to kind of get out of our own way and to get over some of those fears about recording and sharing our message with the world. And so I remember I committed to launching on the first day of spring because spring is a big day for me. Winter is challenging for me. And so spring is like this new energy, this new light, this new, I don't know, it just makes me feel good. It makes me feel revitalized, reborn. It's a time for growth and renewal. And so launching on the first day of spring was very, very special to me. And I remember the moment that I hit publish on that first episode. It felt like pure magic. Now, going back in time just a little bit, when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about on this podcast, what am I going to be able to talk about every single week? What do I never run out of things to say about? My first instinct was to go with yoga. But then the more I thought about it, I feel like practicing yoga, when I talk about yoga, so many people, and I used to be this way too. So no judgment here. I'm just saying that a lot of people, when they think about yoga, they think about the physical practice, the asana, the practice on the mat. And most of my yoga practice occurs off the mat in my day-to-day life, in the moments that I'm in. And so when I really started to think about that, and I started to think about, okay, yoga as a lifestyle, yoga as a pathway to fulfillment, yoga as a way to find my inner Zen, to connect with my inner Zen, especially as I'm navigating midlife. And so the heart of it all, at least to me, to my mind, is this mindfulness, how we move through our days, how we choose to act and respond. That's the yoga. And so the magic of mindfulness is that it brings us into the present moment, the moment that we're in right now, the moment that's in front of us, the only moment that we're living. And so the magic of mindfulness, yes, it does carry over into yoga, but it carries over into so many aspects of our life. And so the Magic Mindfulness podcast was born. I definitely wanted to expand beyond talking about yoga, at least in the physical realm. And so, yeah, don't get me wrong. Yoga is my first love. It is a core part of what I do. And at the heart of this podcast, I fully believe that fundamentally yoga is at the heart of it all. But by making mindfulness the focus of this podcast, I knew that I could explore so many facets of personal growth and well-being, and to help my listeners find their own unique paths to inner peace. Yes, it all fits along this pathway of yoga as I work with my clients on their own unique path as their yoga coach. But we don't have to call it yoga. We can call it mindfulness. We can call it whatever we want, whatever aligns with you, whatever resonates with you, finding your inner Zen. It's your personal path. And so, of course, putting myself out there in this way has come with its fair share of fears and challenges. I remember the very first time that I interviewed a guest, I was so nervous that I was going to run out of things to say, or that I would ask the wrong questions and the conversation would just kind of stall. And you know what? In one of my interviews, I completely lost my train of thought. I completely lost focus on what I was going to do. And this is why I love our community. My guest, she was so gracious and she completely picked up the slack and she led me back down the path to an easy and flowing conversation. So, yes, I stepped out of my comfort zone. Yes, my biggest fear happened and I forgot what I was going to say. I totally lost my train of thought. I stalled out. And you know what? It was scary, but it was okay. So, yeah, I did run out of things to say. And so now that fear is behind me, it's happened, I survived it. It'll probably happen again. Don't even get me started on the imposter syndrome, right? It creeps in whenever I compare myself to other podcasters or worry about being judged. And, a lot of that I have set aside over the years because I do practice this mindfulness. I practice the yoga, and I believe that fundamentally we each have our own unique story to share. My path can help to enlighten and ease your path, but ultimately you have to walk your own path. So, there is that fear that creeps in from time to time, but I feel like when I come to my authentic self, when I speak from my truth, when I speak from my heart, that's all I can do. I'm showing up, I'm being me. And if it resonates with you, then I would love for you to keep coming back. I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to hear your insights. And if it doesn't resonate with you, then I'm sure there are other podcasts out there that are more in tune with what you're looking for. So there's something for everybody. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And so I have to remember that because I am somebody's cup of tea. And for those people that resonate with me, the women that I help, the women that I work with, we go deep, we go far, we cultivate this path to fulfillment through this simplistic lifestyle, through the pathways of yoga, through connecting with ourselves and trusting with our inner voice. And so I just have to say that growth happens outside of our comfort zones. I learned that in my yoga teacher training. I learned that in my coaching training. I have learned that through podcasting. Every single time I have pushed through those fears and shown up authentically, I have been rewarded with the most amazing conversations, the most amazing connections. So, like when one of my guests opens up about her own spiritual awakening, about her own journey, and then I have a person come to me in yoga class and say, "Oh my gosh, that conversation that you had with so and so changed my life." And you know, something that I think is interesting, most of my guests have mentioned the word woo woo and said how they felt safe talking about these concepts that might seem a little bit woo woo because of the name of the podcast, the Magic Mindfulness Podcast. And because of the safe space that I'm creating for us to be able to share our heart, to trust our voice, to connect with our inner truth. And so I think that that's fascinating that these experiences, whether you consider them to be woo woo or not, these experiences are touching people's lives. And it's just such a powerful reminder of why I started this podcast in the first place. And can I just say that you guys are amazing? The feedback that I have received from all of you has been absolutely incredible. People ask me, when is your next episode coming out? What is your next episode about? Oh my gosh, that episode really touched my heart. Every single time somebody reaches out to tell me that an episode resonated with them or helped them through a tough time, my heart swells with gratitude. This is why I do what I do, my friend. This is why I got into this line of work. And this is why I wanted to dive into the world of podcasting, to expand my message, to help this message to ripple out into the world and to connect with like-minded individuals and share their stories so that together we can make an even bigger impact on the world and have this impact ripple out into the lives of those around us, right? So say one person in my yoga class heard one of my episodes, it resonated with her and she shared it with a friend. It resonated with her and she shared it with a friend. This conversation that I had with a woman about her own journey, her own story, it's rippled out and it's impacted at least 3 or 4 lives by this point. And that's not even the ones who just tuned into my um, podcast. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me know what resonates with you and letting me know that it touches your heart, because that is why I do what I do. And that is what keeps me going. And let's be honest, I'm juggling a million other things, just like most of us. And so, you know, I really have to be mindful to prioritize this podcast so that I can get it out on a consistent basis. And your reviews, your feedback helps me to do just that. Now, this is exactly the kind of connection and community that I want to create here. Now, like I said, I'll be honest with you, balancing this podcast with a full-time job, with all of my other responsibilities, it is not always easy. So let me give you an example. I usually like to record my podcast several days early so that I have time to edit it and get it uploaded and get it on YouTube and get it on all these podcasting platforms without feeling stressed or rushed. The reality is life happens and we're leading up to summertime and life is busy. I was out of town last weekend. I was catching up the early part of this week. It is now Wednesday night. My podcast airs Thursday mornings. We're going out of town Thursday morning. So I am putting this together at the last minute. Not my preference, but it is a priority and it will happen. And it's not something that's going to get bumped to the side. So balancing this podcast with my full-time job, with my life, with my other responsibilities is not always easy. There have been moments where I have felt stretched too thin or like I'm burning the candle at both ends. Here's the thing, I'm 3 months in now. I've got a smooth flow. I've got a process. I've got a system. Even though it's 8:42 as I am recording this in the evening right now on the 19th, I have no doubt in my mind that I'm not going to have any problem getting this to you Thursday morning, the first day of summer. Welcome, summer. And I'm not going to have to stay up late to do it. I'm still going to be able to finish packing for a music festival. And so, yes, it is a challenge to fit it in, but it is a priority in my life. So I keep coming back to my why, my deep desire to make a positive impact and share the tools that have transformed not only my life, but the lives of other women around me and other people around me who I trust, who I value, who I respect, who I look up to, and who have a similar pathway to mine, but might share it in a different way. So one thing that helps me to stay on track is setting realistic goals, um, being intentional with my time and my energy. One thing that I am learning to let go of, it'll be a work in progress, is letting go of perfectionism. And that is a recurring theme among many of my guests, along with myself in this podcast. And I'm sure it will come up many more times because perfectionism just seems to be something that most of us struggle with. But I really want to focus on consistency, on showing up authentically, on showing up every week with a new episode, even if it's not flawless. Here's the thing. I lean into my own mindfulness practice to help me stay grounded, to avoid burnout. This was something that I very intentionally added to my plate. I chose to add it to my plate at a time when I thought that I could handle it. When I first launched the podcast, I committed to coming out with new episodes at least twice a month. But in my heart, I really wanted to do this every week. And so far, I have been able to do it every week. So I'm really, really proud of that. And, when I first envisioned this podcast, I knew that my life is busy. Most of the women I work with, their lives are crazy busy. And I knew that I wanted the episodes to be digestible and accessible for busy people like you and me. And so that's why at this point in time, my goal has been to have most episodes be about 15 to 30 minutes long. Some are a little bit longer, some might be a little shorter, but I want it to be just enough time to dive into a topic or story, but not so long that it feels overwhelming to fit into your day. So I would love to hear your thoughts on the episode length. And also, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know if there are any topics that you would like me to explore in future episodes, or if you would like to be a guest on a future episode and talk about how mindfulness has impacted your life. Let me know and we can connect. This podcast, my friend, it's just as much yours as it is mine. I am always doing my best to create content that truly serves you and resonates with you. And one way that I'm doing that, I've chosen to share this podcast not only among the podcasting platforms, but also on YouTube. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One is that YouTube, I find, is much easier to share captions on. And I do have some members of my community that are in the deaf community. And so I wanted to be more inclusive and more mindful of that so that if someone who is hearing impaired, or a lot of people watch these on their lunch break and they don't have the accessibility to have the audio on. So I thought that by sharing this on YouTube, it would give you an opportunity to turn the captions on if you want to and to make it more accessible. Now, years ago, when I first started showing up online, I thought that I had to be picture perfect. I had to have my hair done just right, my makeup done just right. And if you are watching this on YouTube right now, you will see that that is clearly not the case. I taught yoga tonight. I've got my yoga tank top on. My hair is back in a ponytail because I don't like my hair in my face when I practice yoga. And I don't have any makeup on, just a little chapstick. And the reality is, this is who I am almost every single day. I practice yoga almost every single day. I teach quite a few classes every single week. I live in the woods and I love wearing makeup, but I don't wear it very often. I love doing my hair, but I don't do it very often. Um, Most of the time, I am in my yoga clothes or comfortable clothes that I can hike in the woods with my dogs. And most of the time, my hair is pulled back out of my face. And so I had to get over that, right? I had to allow myself to show up exactly as I am, to be authentic and to not be so put together because that's who I am. And so a little bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for here? Sidetrack a little bit. I do that a lot. I get lost a lot. Yoga brings me back home to myself. But what's next? 3 months in, I'm so excited. I actually did it. I have a podcast. I've been doing this for 3 months now. Every single week, I've been able to share an episode with you. I think so. This is my 10th episode on my own. And I've had, I think, my sixth interview coming out next week. I have been able to connect with a variety of teachers, experts, leaders in the mindfulness realm, from registered dietitian, nutritionists to Ayurvedic practitioners to yogis to life coaches and more, and sound journeys, sound baths. So be sure to tune in to some of these interviews that I've done because I have gotten to connect with some really, really amazing women. But what's next? I've got some really exciting guests and themes lined up for you for the coming months. I don't want to give away too much right now, but let's just say we are going to be diving even deeper into the intersection of mindfulness, spirituality, yoga, personal growth with some truly inspiring voices leading the way. And again, like I said earlier, if you are a guest expert in the realm of yoga and mindfulness and you would love to be featured on the podcast, I would love to hear from you. So just email me at hello@rachelhupp.com and send me a message. So let's collaborate. Let's create some magic together. I feel like when we lift each other up, our voices are even more powerful and we can connect with those who really need to hear our message. All right. That's a wrap on this behind the scenes look at my podcasting journey so far. I feel like that was kind of a brain dump here, just kind of going with the flow. So, what I really hope is that if you too have had a podcast on your mind, if it's been on your back burner for a while, um, I hope that this behind the scenes look, by sharing my own experiences, the joys, the challenges, and everything in between, if this is something that's on your heart, if it's something that you want to put out into the world, just do it. Embrace the imperfect mess. Embrace your own unique path. Trust in the power of consistency and self-discovery. Remember, mindfulness, our yoga path, our journey. It's not linear. It's not about perfection. It's about showing up again and again with an open heart, with a curious mind. It's about finding the magic in the mundane and the extraordinary in the everyday. And it's about creating a life that feels authentic, purposeful, and joyful, one moment at a time. This is what I've been able to do for myself through the magic of mindfulness, through the power of yoga, the pathway of yoga. This is what I've helped my clients to do. And I'm getting chills. I've got tears in my eyes because it's just such a powerful journey. And so until next time, my friend, keep shining your light, keep trusting your path, and keep embracing the magic of mindfulness. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you for being here. I truly value you, and I'll see you in the next episode.